I never thought much about the way someone knocked on a door until I met Derek. My roommate Jake had friends over all the time, a rotating cast of college buddies who'd crash on our couch, raid our fridge, and leave beer bottles scattered across the coffee table. But Derek's knock was different. 3 soft taps, a pause, then 2 more. Like a secret code I wasn't supposed to understand yet. The first time I heard it, I was sprawling on the couch in my oldest sweatpants and a t-shirt with a hole near the collar, the kind of outfit that screams, "I've given up on impressing anyone today." I'd been living with Jake for about 6 months, and we'd settled into that comfortable roommate rhythm where we existed in parallel universes, occasionally colliding over whose turn it was to buy toilet paper. I opened the door expecting another one of Jake's generic fraternity-type friends. Instead, I found myself looking at a guy with dark curly hair that fell just past his ears, wearing a worn leather jacket, despite the warmth of the evening. He had these hazel eyes that seemed to shift between green and brown depending on how the hallway light hit them, and when he smiled, it was this slow, genuine thing that reached all the way up to those shifting eyes. "Hey, I'm Derek. Jake around?" His voice was lower than I expected, with this slight rasp that made everything he said sound intimate somehow. "Yeah, he's in his room. Come in." I stepped aside, suddenly hyper-aware of the hole in my shirt. That should have been it. A simple introduction. He should have walked past me, disappeared into Jake's room, and remained just another face in the blur of Jake's social life. But as he moved past me, he paused, his eyes catching on the book I'd left face down on the couch arm. "Ocean Vuong," he said, picking it up with a gentleness that surprised me. "On Earth, we're briefly gorgeous. This book destroyed me in the best way." I felt something shift in my chest, like a door I didn't know was locked, suddenly swinging open. "You've read it?" "Twice. The second time I annotated every page. Probably annoying as hell, but I couldn't help myself." He set it down carefully, exactly where he'd found it. "I'm Marcus, by the way. Sorry, should have said that first." "I know. I mean, you did. Derek." I was fumbling, my words coming out wrong. He laughed, and it wasn't mean. "I'm Derek. You're probably Marcus." "Right, yes, that's me." I wanted to disappear into the couch cushions. Jake emerged from his room then, saving me from further embarrassment. "Derek, man, finally. I've been waiting for you to see this new setup." They disappeared into Jake's room, the door closing behind them, and I was left standing there, feeling like I'd just experienced something significant, though I couldn't articulate what. The second time Derek knocked, 3 days later, I was ready. I'd changed out of my work clothes into jeans that actually fit and a clean shirt. I'd even run my fingers through my hair, trying to make it look deliberately messy instead of accidentally disheveled. When I opened the door, Derek's smile suggested he noticed. "Marcus, Jake home?" "Not yet. He texted saying he'd be late, something about a study group." Derek nodded, then hesitated on the threshold. "Mind if I wait? We were supposed to work on this project together." "Of course, come in." I stepped back, my heart doing this stupid flutter thing I'd been trying to ignore since our first meeting. He settled onto the couch, right where I'd been sitting, and I found myself in the kitchen, offering coffee I wasn't sure we had. We did, miraculously, and I made 2 cups while trying to remember how to act like a normal human being. "So, what do you do, Marcus?" Derek asked, as I handed him a mug, our fingers brushing in the transfer. "Besides read poetry that makes grown men cry?" I laughed, despite my nerves. "I work at a marketing firm. It's about as exciting as it sounds, which is to say, not very. But it pays the bills while I figure out what I actually want to do with my life." "And what do you want to do?" No one had asked me that in months. My parents asked when I'd get promoted. My coworkers asked when I'd finish the latest campaign. But what did I want? I sat down in the chair across from him, cradling my own mug. Honestly, I'm not sure anymore. I used to think I wanted to write, but somewhere between college and real life, that dream got packed away in a box I'm too scared to open. Derek leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "Why scared?" "Because what if I open it and there's nothing there? What if I'm not actually good enough, and the dream was just a comfortable delusion I told myself to get through the hard parts?" He was quiet for a moment, his eyes on me with an intensity that made me want to look away and never look away, both at the same time. Or what if you open it and discover you're exactly as good as you hoped? What if the only thing standing between you and what you want is the fear of finding out you deserve it? Something in my chest cracked open. We talked for 2 hours that night, long after Jake came home and disappeared into his room with barely a greeting. We talked about books and dreams and all the ways we'd compromised ourselves into shapes that fit other people's expectations. When Derek finally left, close to midnight, I lay in bed replaying every word, every look, every moment his laugh had filled our small living room. The third time he knocked, Jake wasn't even supposed to be home. I knew this because Jake had told me that morning he'd be out of town for the weekend, visiting his parents. So when I heard that distinctive knock, 3 taps, pause, 2 more, I opened the door confused. Derek stood there with 2 coffees and a paper bag that smelled like fresh pastries. "I know Jake's gone," he said, and there was something vulnerable in his expression, a nervousness that mirrored my own. "I was hoping you'd be here. You came to see me." The words came out barely above a whisper. "I've been coming to see you for weeks, Marcus. Jake's just been my excuse." He stepped inside, and I closed the door behind him, my hand trembling slightly on the handle. We sat on the couch, closer than we'd ever sat before, and he told me about how he'd noticed me that first day, how he'd spent the entire conversation with Jake thinking about the guy in the living room who read Ocean Vuong and looked at the world like he was still waiting for it to make sense. "I kept making excuses to come back," Derek admitted. "Jake probably thinks I'm obsessed with his company, but really I was just hoping for another chance to talk to you, to hear you talk about the things you're passionate about, the way your whole face changes when you forget to be self-conscious." "I do that?" My voice was shaky. "Yeah, you do." He set down his coffee, turning to face me fully. "And I've been trying to work up the courage to tell you that I can't stop thinking about it. About you." I'd never been good at moments like this. In movies, people always knew what to say, how to move, when to close the distance. But this wasn't a movie, and I was terrified of misreading everything, of ruining whatever this fragile thing between us was. "I'm not good at this," I said finally, "at knowing what to do when someone sees me, really sees me. It's easier to stay invisible." Derek reached out slowly, giving me every opportunity to pull away, and placed his hand over mine. "I know. Trust me, I know. I've spent most of my life perfecting the art of being just interesting enough to keep people around, but not so interesting that they look too close. But you make me want to be seen, Marcus. You make me want to risk it." His hand was warm, solid, real. I turned my palm up, letting our fingers interlock, and felt that same crack in my chest widen into something vast and terrifying and absolutely necessary. "I've been waiting for you to knock on that door every day," I confessed. "I've been listening for it. That stupid pattern you do, 3 and then 2. I hear it in my sleep now." He laughed, soft and close. "It's from this song my mom used to play when I was a kid. I don't even remember the name anymore, just the rhythm. It's the only way I know how to knock." "Don't change it," I said. "Don't ever change it." We spent that entire weekend together. We didn't define it, didn't put labels on what was happening. We just existed in this bubble where the outside world and its expectations couldn't quite reach us. We watched movies with our shoulders pressed together, cooked elaborate meals that turned into flower fights in the kitchen, and talked until the early morning hours about everything and nothing. On Sunday night, as Derek was getting ready to leave, he paused at the door. "I should probably stop using Jake as an excuse to come over." "Probably," I agreed, my heart in my throat. "So can I just come see you? Directly? Without the pretense?" I nodded, not trusting my voice. He kissed me then, soft and questioning, and I kissed him back, with all the certainty I'd been too afraid to voice. When we broke apart, he was smiling that slow smile that had undone me from the very first day. "I'll call you," he promised. "You better." After he left, I stood in the quiet apartment, touching my lips, replaying the kiss, the weekend, every moment that had led to this. For the first time in years, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. Jake came home Monday evening, oblivious as always. "Derek stopped by this weekend?" he asked, noticing the extra coffee cups in the sink. "Yeah," I said, trying to keep my voice casual. "We hung out." "Cool. He's a good guy. You two should hang more. I always thought you'd get along." I smiled to myself, thinking about Derek's hand in mine, his laugh in our kitchen, the way he'd looked at me like I was worth seeing. "Yeah," I said, "we really do." That was 3 months ago. Now Derek doesn't need an excuse to knock on my door, though he still does it the same way. 3 taps, pause, 2 more. It's become the sound of coming home, of being seen, of taking the risk to open that box of dreams I'd packed away and finding that they were waiting for me all along, just like he was, just like I was waiting for him, even before I knew what I was listening for.